Hi, everybody. It's Michelle Jackson, the founder of the Black Writers Workspace, and I am here today with another amazing author. We have Stone Abdullah, who's going to join us to talk about his sci-fi book, and let's bring him on the screen right now. Hi,
Hey,
Stone. How you doing?
hey, I'm fine. How about yourself, Michelle?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It's a Thursday here in New Orleans, and I'm just
Yeah, happy
excited
Thursday.
it's excited to be here with you. We are the Black Writers Workspace. Excited to have you as a member. Excited to learn about your work. You are a sci-fi writer, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
love that. Your book is Journey of, what is it? Journey of the Shadow. I want
Yes,
to make
ma'am.
sure I got that right. And it's all about sci-fi. We're going to get into the heart of your work. But before that, tell us about yourself and tell us about your book.
Well, let's see here. I would say that boy, I'm interested in a lot of things creatively and also academically. I have a wide, I would say I have a long academic history. I'm a trained climate scientist. So I'm one of those guys that says, "Oh my gosh, the carbon dioxide." That you know what I mean? I'm one of those guys. But I used to work with large scale modeling. I started my PhD in UC Irvine back in 14, I think. Then I transferred back home into Jackson State to do some large scale data analytics. And then that's when I got involved in the Army Corps of Engineer to do computer science and machine learning and artificial intelligence. So all you can see that my academic interest kind of fell in line with a lot of Star Trek ish stuff. You know what I mean, like Star Wars and computers and working with supercomputers, and it was so cool.
Hmm.
Um, I guess since childhood, that's been a thing of me being interested in the earth and space, astronomy, especially like physics. Oh gosh, I used to teach from calculus to electromagnetics to Newtonian mechanics. My gosh. But at the same time that all this was happening, my creative interest was still brewing. So um, I would say the manuscript for Journey of the Shadow itself in its primordial stage started like 2000. And so with all these interests academically, me being invested into music, I used to play with some blues bands, a couple of rock bands, metal bands. All of these creative interests just had a melting pot, within myself, but then within this story that I wanted to tell. So I would say that somebody told me this the other day. I'm an eclectic guy. I was like, okay, I guess that's a compliment. I hope. But I would say that a lot of my direct interests really drove my enthusiasm to want to write. I
Hmm.
know my mother. She always told me. She said, "Son, write it down." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." So
Hmm.
within that, writing academic papers and all this other, but then the creative writing start to flourish. And I would, sometimes I would come home either from working in the private sector or before I got into my undergrad, I would come home and I would just start writing. I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be cool if this happened or this? What if we had this character?" These things kept popping up throughout the years. And, slowly but surely, the journey of the shadow was coalescing together. And then I was like, huh, look at this. This is a part of me.
Yes.
and, I,
You
and
know,
I didn't expect it.
I what's so interesting about you is that you're a Southern writer. You're from Jackson,
Yeah.
Mississippi, graduated at the top of your class from Jackson State University,
Yes,
was
ma'am.
a PhD candidate. I mean, you have an amazing background. And I do a lot of things in tech. I'm not a technologist, but I do like tech. And I think the thing about tech and writing that connects is that innovation. It's the creation of something very
Yes.
unique. And I think as
100%.
writers, we're innovators. We're always trying to figure out how to create something, and creating a character is a very complicated process. And so that's so
Yes.
good to know. So as a sci-fi writer, though, I believe
Hmm.
there are two things that a good sci-fi writer will have. One is amazing writing technique, because I believe that your work is like a fingerprint. I don't think anyone can duplicate the work of a good sci-fi writer. I really don't. I mean, it really is unique.
Exactly.
The second is you have to
Exactly.
have a huge, I mean, an expensive imagination. Talk to us a
Uh-huh.
little bit about both. Talk to us about your technique, and then talk to us about your imagination. What is creating these aliens and these beings and these, all these different amazing characters that you have in your book? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, that is a very poignant question, and I thank you for presenting them. I suppose I'll start with the style. If you look behind me, there's a oh, there we go. That right there is an old school, of course, Japanese animation called Tenchi
Hmm.
Muyo. And when I was younger, like in my teens, I used to watch a lot of the classics, we call them, stuff that was produced within the 80s and early 90s, because I love the way the stories were being told. You had a lot of world being given to you. You had, more depth of character being given to you in a shorter span of time.
Hmm.
So I love that, and that I would say that would stem from my interest in watching like Twilight Zone, the old school Rod Sterling
Hmm.
episodes, old school Outer Limits, Alfred Hitchcock, that type of stuff. Grew up with that, and I was accustomed to that form of writing in terms of science fiction. But then when I got into the animation part, I was like, huh, well, that's interesting. There's a fun style to it, There's
Hmm.
from the sci-fi narrative, there's a sort of rigidity that the reader expects that you're gonna immediately bump into the hard science or you immediately get into the nuts and bolts of, some theory, and we probably extrapolated from that and made something completely, weird. But that's the great part about creativity, right? So I said, what if we took this voice of sci-fi narrative and we kind of turned it over, and we just put a, how you have like a varnish finish on a really nice piece of furniture. I was like, what if we put this anime type varnish on this narrative?
Hmm.
Could we do this? And I challenged myself to try to develop that voice early on. Man, yeah, 17, 18. But in order to do that, I had to stop, consuming a whole bunch of information, right? Folks would say, "Oh, watch this show, watch that show." I was just like, "No, no, I'm trying to develop this voice."
Hmm.
There's an air of sincerity that you have to implement upon yourself to say, well, if I want to develop something unique, then I need to step away from a lot of interference in the
Hmm.
creative process. I need to hear myself and be honest with myself to say, is this unique? Is this character going to be unique? And if we're going to take something that pre-exists, are we truly innovating on top of it, right? So that voicing came from me. If I turned on a show, I would mute it and I would read the closed captions so I can understand how the dialogue was written. I was like, oh, so that's how they're phrasing the dialogue. This is how they're suggesting maybe semantics between people. This is how they're suggesting, someone's intelligence versus other. And you learn all these nuances of communication and language if you just sat down and turned off the audio and just read it. Observational learning is powerful. So I did that for a few years, and I said, you know what? Okay, let's hit this word processor, and let's see if we could let's see what we can crank out. And then over time, these characters, this is a segue into the imagination now. Then over time, these characters started to develop their own voices. I
Hmm.
always tell folks that writing is it's part insanity, part genius. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Hmm.
And there's a point in your head where you're starting to hear this character, this voice, respond to this other voice. I'm like, okay, so this is not schizophrenia. This is just the words I'm piecing together. Great. So over time, this blending in with this imagination, with my fascination of, like I said earlier, with like outer space, looking at celestial bodies like these massive expanses of nebula clouds. There's a Horsehead Nebula in the Orion's Belt, the Crab Nebula, the Trifid Nebula, the Eagle's Tower, and all this other type of stuff. I'm like, man, what if we could create a character that was familiar with this stuff, but they knew how to manipulate it? What sort of person would that be? And then it went from there. Then, then I would ask myself, oh, well, maybe there's a character that contains as much power as the sun. I just challenged myself. Could I rationalize that? Scientifically, could I put a qualitative aspect on it? Could I quantitatively describe this and convince the reader that this character, could be real in this universe? So aspects creatively, I borrowed it from my academic interests and things I was naturally drawn to, um, like understanding the dynamics of the Earth itself. It's a non-linear, a common, as I would say, amalgamation of nonlinear systems that interact nonstop. But we don't notice that, but we interact. We don't see it, but it happens all the time. So I said, what if I could create characters that behave kind of like the Earth system? There's nonlinear, they're not directly connected, but some way they all work together. So
Hmm.
this takes a while, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Remember I said like Journey of the Shadow started like 20 years ago. So I would say from developing my voice and taking that varnish of overseas anime style, but it wasn't borrowing a lot of the tropes, mind you, because I have a huge distaste for you know watered down cheesy this. That's not
Hmm.
it doesn't add any value to the story that you're telling, in my opinion. But in terms of developing the voice and learning where my creative vestiges would come from, I'm like, oh, they come from what I'm interested in academically. And then I would bump into different people. Remember that observational learning I was talking about? When you bump into someone, at a store, at a checkout clerk, you never know what you're going to get from them. A lot of authors would say you never know if your name will end up in a book. I would say you never know what characteristic of an
Hmm.
individual would end up in the book, and that
Yeah.
may become a part of that character. So the imagination, it's like this, literally the sky's the limit. I said, your creativity, your inspiration is everywhere. I'll take a quote from Bob Ross. Beauty is everywhere. And the
Hmm.
beauty of it is that you could take a look at people that you've um, met before, or maybe you went to a stoplight and you saw somebody, make a risky move. We see all the time. Well, I was like, huh, maybe that could be a risky move in a dogfight in space. You see what I mean? It's you start to look at life in a different
Yeah,
angle, in a different perspective,
absolutely.
and
I think,
you develop.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I say you develop that over time,
Yeah,
and it's just it's a fascinating journey of the shadow. It's a fascinating journey to see that I would say express and manifest itself. I'm kind of shocked. I was like, oh, this works.
and it does. And I think
Oh,
that that's what's so amazing. You said a couple of things that I think are very interesting. One is just that developing your voice, which is a big
yes.
part of writing. And you almost validated something I've been feeling for years because I write fiction stories. My first book was Christian fiction. This
Mm-hmm.
second book was more of just kind of, I guess you could say, urban fiction. But I love developing characters, and so I
Yes.
refuse to read everybody's work or anybody's work while I'm getting into that space because I feel like it is, I don't want to mimic it. I know some people say you should read a lot when you're writing. I read a
They
lot, but
say
not
that.
when I'm writing. When I'm writing, I need to
Correct.
have my own voice. And so I love that you said that. The second thing is about your imagination. I once heard someone say when we get to the age around 8 or 9 is when we start to fear things. So before that age, we are, we're wrapping towels around our necks and jumping off the side of the couch. We're thinking we can take our big wheels and ride as fast as, as the wind. We have this
Guilty.
amazing, yeah, this is me too. So this imagination that is so fearless. And then as we get older, the fear comes in. So when I hear you
Yeah.
talk, I feel like somewhere you captured that 8-year-old imagination and you stayed with it and you let it manifest itself into something that was relatable to you, that you connected your work with, your schooling with, and everything else. And I love that because there really is in all of us as writers, I think, is that young, adventurous, fearless person. Because when you're creating a character, that you know someone is going to
Mhm.
ask you about. You just created a two-headed monster who eats berries for breakfast. It's like, where did that come from? I mean, there's always that question of, are you insane? I know it is. I'm sorry. Are you a little special? 'Cause I had that when I wrote my first book. I had people saying, where did these characters come from?
What's wrong? Yeah.
And it came from inside of you. Yeah, exactly. What's wrong
Hmm.
with you? So my next question for you is, in your book, we build characters, like you said, based on people and experiences that we encounter. Now you're writing sci-fi, so you've got aliens and maybe zombies. I'm not sure. Probably a few of them in there. I'm not sure, but
Oh,
you've got a little
oh,
bit of
oh, oh.
everything. What character that you've created is really Stone?
That's the main protagonist, easily. That's my boy, Commander Tsumisu, the humanoid anomaly, they call him. He's the commander of the shadowy supernatural warrior clan Sonazi in modern day Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And I really connected with Tsumisu, particularly at a young age. And in the story, he's 19. Um, and I connected with him insofar as him trying to discover why he has the gifts that he has. So he knows his purpose so much that, okay, sure, I'm a commander of a clan or whatever. Sure, he knows the jobs he has to do in fighting some, supernatural evils that mankind doesn't know about and this sort of thing. But he has to consider why his strength is so profound. Like it's why is he overkill? There's a little bit of the existentialism that goes into, not just a little bit. There's a lot of existentialism that goes into Commander Sumisu. But an extrapolation from Sumisu to myself was, for example, trying to find that voice. Two, trying to narrow down what is my interest. I have so many interests. I said, oh, I love geology, I love meteorology, I love climatology, I love computers. But I got to pick one. I love writing. I love playing. I used to be in bands. I said, am I going to be a musician from now on? So there's this conflict of interest that you would love a host of things. But as time went on, I love that you mentioned that, capturing onto that 8-year-old, that 9-year-old imagination that's fearless. And as time went on, as these interests stuck with me, you saw your responsibilities start to creep up behind you as well, right? We all go through it.
Mm-hmm.
And I took that as an extrapolation upon Samisu to say, I have all this within me, but am I making these decisions on my own, or am I, predestined? What is going on? So the title of the 4-book series is only, I'm releasing the second one, but the title of the series, Journey of the Shadow, is a metaphor that this is a journey of an individual that sees himself in a shadow within a world that has all these lights. Perhaps they're shining on him, and is his shadow going to lengthen? Is it going to shorten? And why? So you're walking along this path. I want to say of extreme existentialism, but you're walking along this path of this extremely gifted supernatural being, and understanding that he's not some guy that's going to come to you and be like, oh, well, I'm this strong, so I can do this, or I know all these talents. He's not a jack of all trades.
Mm-hmm.
He's got some character, flaws. Like I had character flaws. I said,
Mm-hmm.
what if I wrote Sumisu, to have there once upon a time I wasn't able to like read cues, like body language really good from people. And I said, what if we can make that a representation within Sumisu? I said, I guarantee you we can capture audiences that way and make them relatable. That's the word I was searching for. So in developing Commander Sumisu, I took a lot of aspects within myself as I was learning about myself. And I said, well, hey, why not just make this a representation of my own journey within this life, and just blow it a little bit out of proportion because it's sci-fi, right? I said,
Mm-hmm.
but let's have fun with it. That's the key word. I said, let's have fun with it. And so I said, let's remove some expectations about what you would expect somebody with all this power to know. And so when the reader, runs into, oh, he's not aware of that, then they facepalm, they're shocked, they're like, well, what's he going to do now? How's the other characters going to respond? Bang, that engagement starts happened, right?
Mhm.
So I would say that for yeah, Commander Tsumisu, that's my now alter ego doppelganger. There we go. That's my doppelganger.
Well, Stone, we are getting some comments and questions in. I'm first and foremost want to tell everybody to please take this link and share it on your personal page. Go to author Michelle D. Jackson, and you can share it from there. However, we had a couple comments. Yanni Scott said hello. I don't know her,
Hello.
so it must be a friend of yours. So that's good. Andy, how you doing? Barbara Phipps, she says, come through with the nerd voice, former USACE employee here. I'm so intrigued.
Yeah,
Um,
you're
and then
safe. Yeah.
Yanni said, you are right. I don't know what we was talking about, but she said you were right. So that's a good thing. Phipps came back and she said, yes, definitely tech and creativity blends well, which is what we were talking about initially. I'm just trying to catch us up. And then we had someone to
Oh yeah.
say, did you always have a career? Did you also have a career in radio? Great voice. I won't even let you respond to that. Okay. I'm not, I agree, but you don't have to respond to that. So if he hasn't, he needs to be in radio because I'm hearing that whole, we're gonna play the smooth jazz right now. So you gotta continue that. So let's talk
The
though
answer is
about
yes.
you did okay.
The
You've
answer,
done
I
everything.
did
So
two
that's
two
a
and
good
a half
thing.
years.
Oh, awesome. That's awesome. So I love what you're talking about when it comes to writing because I'm envious. As a fiction writer, I'm envious of you because you get to build characters that can be extra. And
Mm,
it's normal in that space of sci-fi. And and also I always feel this way about children's books as well. It's just the fact that you can deal with an issue with a fun, funny face, with an
mm-hmm.
odd demeanor, with uniqueness, two heads, the talking dragons. You can do that, and
Yes.
but you can deal with real world issues.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I think about what was the story with the blue people that everybody loved a couple of years ago. I'm sorry,
Um,
I'm missing it.
not I was about to say Narnia, but it was Avatar. Is that
Yes,
yeah?
Avatar.
It's Avatar. Yeah. Whoo.
And that
James
idea that
Cameron. There it is.
there was this deeper meaning behind the story, it gives you this opportunity to have fun and build these amazing characters, but also to deal with real social issues. And I know you deal with good
Yes.
versus evil in your book.
Yes, ma'am.
And now knowing that your main character is representative of you, um, did you win?
No spoilers. No spoilers. But let me separate myself from my doppelganger. For
Okay.
myself, I believe that yes,
Okay.
that success comes from humility. Success comes from understanding that adversity is a necessity towards your advancement through life because you learn so much, right? You go through it. Every human being on this earth, we're going to be about 9 billion people on the planet, by the way, by 2050. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, my goodness, with so many experiences, but there's some commonality of adversity. I'm like, oh, like we said earlier, after after that mountain of adversity, there's a valley of ease. And may be another mountain, but my gosh, you have picked up so much endurance. So I would say, yes, a success within myself, I can say, for certainty. Now, to my doppelganger. Is he going to be successful? That's I got to leave that up to for you guys to read because number one, volume one was released in 2017. Okay, Darkness Falls is scheduled to be released next month. Okay, got a Kickstarter going for it. We got fully funded in 4 days. Woohoo!
Oh, yes.
Um, but I would say that Sumisu has a great opportunity to succeed. How about I leave that at a cliffhanger? He has a great
Okay.
opportunity to succeed. And do you know why? Look at these things, these ladies behind me.
Mm.
One thing that I learned, this is Goddess Evelyn. There's a deity system in Journey of the Shadow. There's three goddesses, Shadow Maiden, Goddess Rosaria, Goddess Evelyn. That's the middle
Mm-hmm.
sister, Goddess Evelyn. This, oh, whoa, I got my, okay. This right here, I would say I think this is a demigoddess because this is her progeny right here. Goddess Evelyn, and then that's Princess Suzuka Devonia, Imperial Commander, of the class 4 civilization, the Devonians, that reign over the 4 arms of the Milky Way galaxy. See how big this is? So, but what I learned within myself, again, Sumisu's my doppelganger. I grew up, my mother homeschooled me
Mhm.
and my 2 big sisters. And yeah, so my mom, dad, they took so much strife to make sure that we had what we needed. We didn't have everything, of course not. But one thing that my mother in particular made sure that we had was an opportunity to expand our critical thinking and our knowledge. My God, she threw everything at us. I was like, wow, thank you, Mother. So that lady, may God be pleased with her, she was the #1 influence on my life. That if not for her, this wouldn't be a thing.
Mm.
So a huge representation within Journey of the Shadow itself. You spoke about social issues. One huge underlying theme is lifting women higher up and carrying them at this really high tier that they literally are the cradles of our society. So that's why I have a goddess deity system. It's kind of like you're trying to use a not a metaphor, but a euphemism. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? My dad, when he saw the book, he said, "I see what you're doing, son," because he had a deep voice like me, and he said you're trying to communicate all these different aspects of the human condition. He said, even though you've got all these wild and strong and extraterrestrial characters and supernatural abilities, he said all of them are communicating about specifically about the human condition. How do we
Hmm.
communicate in times of adversity? How do we come together? How do we use our strengths? And if somebody's stronger than someone else, well, shouldn't it be better for us to just lend our strength to someone else so everyone else can be strong enough to defeat this overwhelming evil? That's an overwhelming theme within Journey of the Shadow. So
But the
that's why I
way,
say,
yes,
go
but
ahead.
the way you can infuse that in a story and it doesn't seem threatening. And this is something that Michelle Brito posted. She said he makes real issues non-threatening at the same time, not missing anything. And that speaks exactly to why I said that I'm jealous. Is because if I take my urban fiction characters and
Mm-hmm,
try to dissect all of those social concerns, social issues, raising up women,
mm-hmm,
being fair, good and evil, all in one
mm-hmm,
character, the reader's
mm-hmm.
going to say, no one person can do all of that. That's
Right.
superhuman. That's not even
This is,
possible to tackle all that. But in sci fi, you can build these amazing characters that can do it all.
yes.
You
You have
know,
these degrees of
I mean,
freedom. Yes, ma'am.
exactly. There is this level of freedom that I mean, I look at your characters behind you, and the first thing I think of is they don't have to go to the gym to look that good. They got to go to the gym to look that good.
I've
That
got
right
exercise. What?
that's the #1 superpower. So it's like I love that you're going in that direction. We had someone else to say they love it. I think this is a great conversation. I could talk to you forever because I feel like, first of all, you're so smart and you're a
Thank
Southerner,
you.
and I'm really gonna harp on that because I'm from
Yes, I am
Alabama
from Mississippi.
originally. I live in New Orleans, and I love to talk to Southern writers because I think we bring a lot of uniqueness to the table, and everybody has a different story to tell. Okay,
Yes, yes.
homeschooled, what your parents instilled in you, it is paying off tenfold. Let's talk about, and people out there, if you still have questions, post them up. We're going to talk a little bit longer. Let's talk about your publishing and your marketing because, with the
Okay.
Black Writers Workspace, we really want to, learn from each other. And we are a group of, I think we've got 3,800 people, I mean, writers and readers now who are just sharing information. So I don't want to miss an opportunity to hear more about how you publish. You said that you did a Kickstarter for your second book. Talk a little bit about
Mm-hmm.
that, and then talk a little bit about your marketing for your book.
Okay, sure. I should probably say in totality, and I'll keep it short. When I released Journey of the Shadow Volume 1 in 2017, I didn't have any socials, and I was still like in grad school, so I was like learning about self marketing and how to use social media. So I had a lot of learning to do. So when I released the book, I opened up like a independent Facebook page. You know how that
Mhm.
is. You have a Facebook page during the shadow. I was like, okay, well, pre-COVID times, wow. I said, well, let me go find some venues, some coffee shops. Maybe I could do
Mhm.
some book signings and that sort of thing. Barnes and Noble, that kind of thing. So I went out. You put boots to the ground. You go to Vistaprint, you order yourself some nice, 17 by 11 or whatever posters. You hang them up, talk to people, talk to people, talk to
Mm-hmm.
people, talk to people. My goodness, if there's anything, I'll get to the Kickstarter in just a minute, but talking to people and demonstrating your passion, your enthusiasm for this story, what it is that you want to convey to the other human being about what they could gain from this story, the value that you can give to them, that you're trying to build a new set of memories within them that's going to enrich their life in some capacity. People see that in your face, they hear it in your voice. Every time I had like a book signing, they're just like, why aren't you on TV? I'm like, I'm trying to get there. But I said, but this is where I said, everyone has to start from somewhere.
Right.
I said, but the fact remains the same. I said, if you are not demonstrating your enthusiasm and your passion for what's coming out of you, how do you convince the other human being that this is worth their investment within themselves? Because there is an emotional attachment, there is
Mm-hmm.
an intellectual attachment, that you're going to build something from them and share it. These are memories that they're going to take with them. Some part of the novel, some piece of dialogue will pop in their head as they're sitting at a stoplight after they come back from maybe it was a bad day at Walmart at 5 o'clock in the evening, and they're sitting in the car. They're just like, huh. I remember Tsumisu saying, such and such, and it lightens them up. It cheers them up.
Mm-hmm.
That's the sort of life my dad always said. He said, son, anywhere you go on the earth, give people life. I was like, yes, sir.
I love
So
that.
I was like, so why not use this book as a vessel to give people life in a sea of a drought? I would say as a metaphor. So, getting back to like characters and that sort of thing. Oh, if darn it, yeah, marketing. I'm going to stay on topic. So, marketing. The number one thing I found that was important was talking to others. And so when
Mm-hmm.
COVID happened and I was starting to release my second book, I was like, okay, well, I can't reach you. I can't sign the book and be like, have a great day. Make sure you send me an email. Can't do that now. But I said, what? Why can't we just use these powerful tools of social media as is to communicate? I said, there's a way that you could get involved with these tools and be free of all this other junk, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these, errors, all these errors of animosity, yada yada yada. There's a ton of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling myself, I said, well, I'm disobeying what my dad said. He was 81. I was like, this man had been on Earth, 3 times the amount of time I was here. And my dad was like, give people life. Why am I going to involve myself in social media to try to, burn my own spirit, my own passions into something that's not going to benefit someone else? I said, let me use social media as a vessel to give this message to give this story to. So I said, let's do the Kickstarter first campaign. And I said, well, let's start hopping in maybe a certain community, the comic book community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started working with a marketing group called Inked Marketing, Inked, Inked Marketing. And oh gosh, as soon as I got involved, it was like, and they're from there. I think they're Southern based too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I got involved with them, and then you just start to see this flood of people with a similar idea that we're trying to create to give value to the human condition while we're here. We saw all the tragedy in 2020. So that
Mm-hmm.
now we have this, it's more important than ever that we share stories and we tell stories and we give this to other people. I was like, okay, great. Second, the Kickstarter, I think it was so successful, and the reason, I'll stake my word on this. I believe the reason why we got that thing funded in 4 days is because people believed in it.
Mm-hmm.
People believed in it because they believed in the person that was communicated with. They said, this guy, he loves, not, it's not just a point of fact, I just love this story. I think it's the best story on earth. No, I love this story because I love to give it to other people. That's a completely different mindset because you see the benefit, you see their faces light up. When I used to teach at the undergrad and the grad level, right? So they had me teaching like hard stuff, right? But what I loved about teaching when I was at that dry erase board is when I put something on and I see the confusion in someone's face. What I loved to see was that light bulb come
Mm-hmm.
off in it, and it's genuine. It's unmistakable. You see it, and every time you could see the response in the human being that they said, "Wow, I was just given something." That's amazing. And they treasure that. They value that. I said, well, shoots, this is the same mechanism that I was doing at the dry erase board that I'm doing with this book. It's the same
Absolutely.
thing. Human beings given to other human beings, right? So it was above, the marketing. You're marketing what you love to give to people. I would
Mhm.
give somebody that as an adage of advice. You're marketing what you want to give to other people.
I love
And
that. And
yeah,
I love that. I love the fact that you took social media and you saw something in it that a lot of us struggle with, and that is the real value of social media. Now, I can tell you, I started the Black Writers Workspace last year this time. I'm almost at my 1 year anniversary, and I just dropped my book on February 14th. And I'm like you, my first book, I went to all types of events. I sold, you set up the table, you pitch your
oh yeah,
book. It was amazing. So when I released my second book, I thought I'm going to spend the year just going to different events. I actually had already signed up for about 3 or 4 different book fairs, and then COVID
mm-hmm.
hit.
And
And
bang, woo,
it made me, reassess everything that I was doing because I still wanted to get the work out there. And so I started the private page, thinking I'll get 100 writers, and now we're at almost 4,000. And
it's
what
amazing.
I learned from this group is that you can build a community. And social media has its pluses. It has many minuses too. But the pluses
Yes,
is being able to connect with people from all over the world. I've interviewed people from Nigeria. I've interviewed people from Jackson, Mississippi. I've interviewed people from New York. I have
that's amazing.
interviewed people everywhere. And a year ago, I wasn't doing any of this. No one knew me. No one
Wow.
knew anything about it. So learning how to use social media effectively is great. And your Kickstarter, because I do Kickstarters for companies, I have a PR firm. To see that you raised your money in 4 years, you are absolutely right. It's all about how the trust that people have in you, the credibility that you have with your community, which you tapped into your community, which is very important. And
Yes, ma'am.
and I know that the
Takes
work is
work.
great. So that is excellent. Any questions out there for Stone? I think that this is such an amazing conversation. I am excited for your second book.
Thank you.
Excited, to know that you're going to continue. I mean, the 800-pound elephant in the room is that a black man writing sci-fi. I got to throw that out there because I put on book fairs, and when we have sci-fi books written by African Americans, people really love that. I was reading they're going to do something with Octavia Butler's book Kindred.
Oh,
There is more being done in that space of sci-fi, and I'm running into more writers in that space, and I want to see more of it. Dark fantasy, sci-fi, thrillers, all that needs to come to
all
surface
of it.
because
Yes.
it's important. It is a creative writing that needs to be honored because you have to make me believe what you want me to believe in that book. And that's tough. Fiction is
Yeah.
tough anyway,
It's
but
tough.
it's
Yeah.
tough because you have to live those characters. I was thinking about this the other day. I said, am I writing the character, or does the character write itself? And I think a
Right.
good piece of work at some point, it just takes on a life of itself. Like you said, they speak to you. It's like,
Yes.
Stone, I'm about to walk up the street and do it. You're like, yep, yep. Now, and I'm gonna put a pin in the fact that you said a word
Yep.
processor because you don't think I heard that, but I heard that word processor. All right, Stone. That's all.
word,
Oh
word
yeah,
processor.
I heard you say that. I was like, is he about to talk about
I
a
hope. I was
penny?
like. I was like, I hope she didn't catch that one. Maybe she'll ignore it.
No, I heard that. So that's an old one, but yeah. But I love that when you start to write. I mean, those characters, they're just telling you, no, I'm not doing that, but I
Yes.
will do this. I'm not going in that
But
direction, but I will.
yes,
And it's something it's hard to
it's
express to.
exciting.
Yes, and it's hard to express to non-writers because they probably think you're a little crazy like me. It's like, what?
Oh yeah. Hey,
But you
tell me.
do. It
I
speaks to you. It speaks
yes.
to you. Absolutely.
Yes.
So, Stone, this has been great. I hope you continue to be a part of our community. Tell us where we can find your book.
Guys, you can find my book. my Kickstarter, literally everything Journey of the Shadow related at my website, www.journeyoftheshadow.com. You can find everything else, social media. I'm active on Instagram at Journey of the Shadow. You can find me on Facebook. I'm active there, Journey of the Shadow. And
Journey
my
of
Kickstarter, we got 19 days left. And we're at 129% funded now, so people are still believing in it, and I'm incredibly grateful for everyone's support. But journeyoftheshadow.com, and you guys hope you enjoy this fun ride. I've been riding for 20 years, and hope this is not the end. Oh no, no, there's a whole second series. I'm waiting, burning to write, but gotta be patient. Gotta be patient.
that is excellent. I'm looking at your T-shirt and I'm trying to figure out what movie is that from.
I'm going to leave that to the audience. That's going to be a cliffhanger. So that's going to be you guys. I mean, I'm going to say like Pliskin. That's a hint. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to say Pliskin. Plisken. But there's a synthwave band called Droid Bishop that
Okay.
got. Can you? No, you can't see it from this camera. Anyway. You guys Google it. You'll find what I'm talking about.
We will wait a minute. That's Kirk Douglas, right? That's Kirk Douglas' son. What
That's
is yeah, of course. So
this
okay.
is Kirk Douglas.
No, that is Kirk. Okay, that's what I thought. So anybody, if you
Yeah.
can figure this out, you can put it in the comment area, and I would love to see what you guys come up with. So let's say cliffhanger T-shirt. That's what one person said. So I remember cliffhanger. So yeah. So anyway, this is great, and let's do this again. And once again, he's got a Kickstarter. Go out and find it. We've got www.journeyoftheshadow.com to purchase the book. And I hope everybody who's listening and everybody you know will go out and purchase and support his work. That's what this is all about, is supporting each other. It's not about anything else than that. That's what I love about the page. It's just being positive and supporting each other. And I want to bring you back when we have our next book fair. I would love for you to talk and share more about what you do. So this is excellent. Thank you so much. And
Thank
just
you,
take
Michelle.
care and continue to be great.
Okay, I will try. And thank you for bringing me on,
Thank you.
Michelle.
We're going to end it now, everybody, and then I'm going to spend a little time talking to Stone offline. But this is such a great interview, and it's on the BWW page. It's shareable on the author Michelle D. Jackson page. We will be putting up clips over the next 24 hours. So I hope that you will share it as much as possible so that he can continue going beyond he's already reached his goal. So he wants to continue to get that Kickstarter going, continue to get it
To the moon.
all the way right to the moon, to the moon. That's where we're going. To Mars. We're going to Mars. So
To
that's good.
Mars. We're going to Mars.
All right.
Perseverance, baby.
Thank you.
Take care.